Hey, Gabriel,
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
where are we today?
I am at Shea Casa.
Se casa. Se
Yeah,
casé.
yeah. No, the world's on fire. At least Northern California is. So the few outdoor places have been advised against going because the air is unhealthy. So we're in our apartments.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably, like people are going to be listening to this podcast like 5 weeks in the future, but usually as California works, maybe there is another fire happening at that time.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Right now, it's smoky. It literally smells like a campfire in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
a beautiful orange, set of clouds everywhere.
Yeah, it's basically like just being in the highly edited takes from Apocalypse Now that they use for the cover and everything.
Exactly. Without the helicopters.
Yeah, without the helicopters, that's the only thing. They are not going to be like dropping napalm. But in any case, with the kind of escalation of tragedies that we are having, is like maybe tomorrow they will start like just dropping napalm around San Francisco. Who knows?
Actually, a
Cross fingers.
helicopter who was dropping water on fire in Fresno
Mhm.
crashed and died. Because it's just like a
Poor
continuous
Mr.
stream of happy news.
Yeah, so poor Mr. Helicopter that died. Are you telling about like the helicopter itself or the people that they were in the helicopter?
The man driving the helicopter.
Okay. Is driving or piloting?
Did you pilot a helicopter? I don't know, to be
I
honest.
don't know. I mean, I don't
Not
know it
American.
either. You're American. For
A
me, it's like
United Stadium, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that you recognize it. But in any case, while all these disgraces happening around us, what did we watch?
We watched the 1970s seminal classic. Just kidding. We had a hard time finding this. We watched a French film by Claude Chabrol called Le Boucher, or in English, The Butcher. I would not believe when Jose told me that the definition was the Butcher. The Butcher.
Yep. As simple as that, the butcher. And then when you actually watch the movie, it's like, yeah, it's about the butcher.
It's about a butcher. Yeah,
Yep.
no, I get it now. There's no subtlety here.
Yeah. So why did you pick this movie?
Well, you know how much I love French cinema. First, it's Swedish cinema because of Ingmar, and then French for me. So maybe 10 years ago, 13 years ago, I saw a film that blew me away called Girl Cut in Two. Sometimes it's a girl cut in two, sometimes it's girl cut in two. And I loved the film. And when I went to research the director, I read that he's kind of considered a master of French cinema. And I had never watched anything else by him. And for whatever reason, he was on my mind during our last podcast. And I was like, I want to see something else by him.
So this is the second movie that you ever watched from him?
Yeah.
I bet the other movie like blew your mind.
The other movie, at least to 26-year-old Blake, was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. And I actually watched that movie because it starred the piano, not teacher, the piano student in The Piano Teacher.
Oh, the guy from the piano?
Yeah. He starred in A Girl Cut in Two, and I was like, I'm going to watch that because I loved The Piano Teacher.
Oh, Isabel Huppert. You're so disturbing.
Coming soon, L on the Gabriel podcast.
God. I don't know. So I think that as you pick it, I should summarize what the movie is about. I already gave some kind of forewarning before we started recording the podcast that I had a fire at work that I had to pay attention to. So at the beginning of the first 30 minutes, I'm just trying to defend myself before you start criticizing me. Is that I pay attention to the movie, but there may be some nuances that they got lost in translation. So the movie,
you took notes.
in my head, I do. The movie starts with a wedding in this small French village, where this couple is getting married, so everything is like very slice of life, and the main action is about this butcher that falls in love, or let's just say like a friendship relationship with a teacher. And everything is like,
it's a romantic relationship.
it's a romantic, he wants a romantic endeavor, but at the same time, the teacher, she actually says that She's not looking for a lover. She had like very terrible outcomes of, from a love relationship that she had in the past, and she's not looking for it. She doesn't need it. She's over any kind of romantic relationship. So the story is mostly a slice of life kind of a story, but on the background there are like just some recurring murders happening until like I don't know. This is only like a 19
serial killer murders.
Yeah, serial killer.
Not rapes, but murders of girls.
Exactly. Yeah, there was no penetration or anything. It was a bit more like they just murdered them. Until I don't know, like 60 minutes into the movie, is that they connecting one of the outings of the school where this woman is a teacher. They actually find a body, and she finds a lighter that she gave to the guy. That the guy is a butcher. And from that point, it's a bit more. It turns up to that point there was nothing more than a slice of life, and at that point it actually turns into a full-blown thriller. Is that you could actually just already that it's going to be a thriller. You read the summary, but it's like what I really like about this movie is that there has like a 180-degree turn on the genre. About like everything feels like pretty peaceful and pretty nice and pretty like okay, there is a murder, but they never over-index too much on it. And it's like when she actually finds the lighter, everything is about, oh, this guy is a murderer. But it's true that it's like half of the movie is about the last night.
Yep.
The first half is about like how they start like just getting close and everything. And the thing is, I would say that it's like pretty well written and pretty well acted because that feels natural.
So, I've been extremely curious to hear your opinion on this, and during our pre-show chit-chat, I wanted a preview, and you refused. I need you to tell me now, did you like this?
I did. Okay. I don't think that is, because the thing is that when we actually ask these questions, I think that from an artistic perspective, today you asked me if I knew about the rule of thirds, and I think that they use it perfectly. I was thinking about it, is this artistically good or not? Until they have a scene that I felt like this is amazing. The build up on this when she actually runs one last time. So there's going to be spoilers here. One last time for just locking all the doors. And she just there was another door. I had to run out, and there is like this scene where she's on a third in one of the vertical lines, and the light goes off outside or goes in, I don't remember exactly what, but it's like
the other room?
On the other room, it's like that scene is like, holy shit, that scene was amazing, like the kind of just taking like a step back about like, oh, okay, that actually just built up the tension, all the tension that they were like just building up for 70 minutes in the movie, it just paid off. It just paid off. But the thing is like, they didn't actually build up like a lot of tension before that. Because most of the scenes with the Butcher, most of the scenes they started like just building up the tension when she finds the lighter. But before that, the movie was completely innocent.
So just all spoilers here. She gives him a very unique lighter, which she then finds at the third crime scene when her school trip.
Second or third, yeah.
And she hides it from the police. And then the next time she's with the butcher, she asks him to light her cigarette, and he uses the exact same lighter, and so she has this huge sense of relief that this guy she's kind of interested in.
But what I find that is a bit of a weakness of the movie is that the script cannot really handle this properly, because like, why does the butcher take the lighter when he finds it, when he goes to just offer his help to the girl, he starts like just painting the ceiling or whatever, and then he finds the lighter. He's like, why does he take it? At that point he's like, look, you already fooled her, it doesn't matter that she has it. He said, why did you have to steal it? Because that actually is what triggers like she knowing that you're the murderer.
Because he knew that she could take that piece of evidence and expose him to the police if she wanted.
We're talking about 1970. There is no like fingerprint kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's more like circumstantial, right? Like, hey, I gave him this very unique lighter, but
he has one. he has another one exactly the same. She already is like at peace with that.
Okay, so I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's like a big plot hole. He took it because he's like, this is the one thing that can connect me to that murder.
Sure, but at the same time, it's like I just feel. But even like how he reacted afterward, after that, that is okay. I'm going to be like threatening you with a knife, but I kill myself. It's a bit more like he was not concerned about her, like just exposing him. He was just concerned from her not loving him. So he didn't need like take, look.
I don't know if I agree. I respect your reading, and maybe I like this film more than you, so maybe I'm more forgiving.
Sure.
That worked.
Sure. Look, I'm just saying that it's like I love how a slice of life, a decent slice of life film, suddenly turned into a decent thriller. I love that. I don't think that's common. I don't think that is something that is like very. I'm trying to think if I have ever seen something playing out in that way. About like we are one genre, like pretty clearly a slice of life, like a love story, and then suddenly they were going to be like turning into pretty clearly a thriller.
And I think you mentioned that this is like the frog in boiling water. Is that what you were referencing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very much like halfway through the film, I was like, I thought this was a psychological thriller. Maybe it's not. There's nothing that gives it away.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk like maybe 30 minutes into the movie that they found a girl dead, but they don't show anything, and they don't even like over-index. Yeah.
And there were several aspects of the film I found very interesting. One that you mentioned is that it went for so long. Everything's normal. All of a sudden, there's literally kids having a picnic with blood dripping onto their sandwiches. And you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I also like that we, as an audience, we kind of go with Helen,
yeah.
Helen, we go with her on her journey because we also have the suspicions, hey, the butcher's a murderer. And
yeah, I mean,
we also go on that journey with, he has his own lighter, no, this is a coincidence. And then we come to the realization at the same time as her, which is actually a very scary, life-threatening experience where he breaks into her house.
But she actually becomes defensive because the butcher actually takes the lighter with him. There is no reason for him to take the lighter. Honestly,
I see what you're saying. For me, that wasn't an issue. For me, if I'm a murderer, regardless of fingerprints or DNA, if I saw, holy shit, she's hidden this. She hid it because she knows I'm a murderer. This is the one thing that can connect me. If she testifies, I know you see holes. For me, it wasn't a hole, but I respect.
Okay. No, that's fair. Honestly, for me, it was a bit more like this is like a plot device. This a bit more like you're using this because you need to progress the story. But if you were smart enough for just building that moment of relief that I love, the acting, I love it. When the girl like start like just breaking down when seeing the lighter, like when the guy has the lighter, is like I love it because that actually is a confirmation that she really loves him. I mean,
her performance is perfect in my opinion. She's so good in this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, her performance was actually what maintained the movie. I think that is like pretty cool how she actually is like interested but not too interested in him, and then how she turns into this kind of. I think that we discussed this. That is like I love when movies have this kind of toxic relationships. I mean, one of my favorite movies is Sunset Boulevard. It's basically a toxic relationship. For 90 minutes, and it's like this is basically that. It's like she's not in love with him, but she is, because when she is dying in the hospital and she asks him, it's like just kiss me. It's like she's still even at this point when the guy could have killed her. She's still in love with him. She's still like just desperate to love again.
So there was a lot to unpack there. I think she did have feelings for him, no matter how much she admitted it, even to herself. She had feelings for him. She was so hurt by a previous lover that you have to imagine she's like, shit, this is happening again. She's horrified she fell in love with a serial killer. He, instead of murdering her, which it seems like is going to happen, he kills himself because he's a monster and she just, can't love somebody like him.
No, well, but I mean, see, he actually kills himself because he actually recognized that he has a problem, and he truly loves her.
Yes, I agree. So there's this moment where she has these incredibly conflicted feelings. She discovers this guy she loves or likes, and she loves him and she despises him. He disgusts her, and then he kills himself, and she has to try and save his life. And I was struck by the entire drive to the hospital, which felt so long. And you can see in her face, you can see in this actress's face both the sadness of losing this man she loved, the horror that she's a murderer, the tension to save his life. It's just that last 15 minutes is like, holy shit, worth the payoff.
Yeah, and that's how you were asking me about the Turing horse earlier, and I told him, it's like, actually this movie made me think about the Turing horse because there is a payoff at the end. It's not that the rest of the movie is terrible, it's a bit more like the last 20 minutes, they're amazing. They're like just incredible.
Yeah, I feel like the first 60 minutes is Claude Chabrol like setting up this elaborate trap, and you just feel like, oh, you're in this little love story in the French countryside, and then this happens, and you're like, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and I love that scene when they are driving. I have forgotten about it, but it's like, I love that when I was watching, it's like, what is he doing? Is he actually just going to a police station? Is he actually going to the hospital? Is she not going anywhere and just letting him die? Is that you are not completely sure about what her feelings are, but is that kind of ambiguity, how he actually plays with the audience? I think that is pretty well done.
I was extremely impressed with this movie. I don't think it's like an important, significant movie. I mean, you can't even rent this anywhere. We had a hard time finding this. This is a movie that's basically lost to history, but for what it is, this little fucked up story, I liked it a lot. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, I already brought down my score. I may actually still change it. I'm still on the fence, but when I actually think if I'm going to remember this movie a year from now, I won't.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The thing is that there are like some very powerful scenes, but there's like two, and it's like not two about like, okay, 2 5-minute long scenes. It's a bit more like, I will remember like 2 shots.
Do you remember what those were?
When she actually just comes back on the schoolroom, and she actually just sees the light going on or going off.
Oh,
is
God,
that shot is amazing, and there is another shot while she's on the front and the guy is on the back, and he's out of focus, I think. And there was like a point like, okay, you actually constructed this scene. The funny thing is like the rest of the film feels pretty natural, pretty like, okay, I could almost like be recording with a hand on camera because it's not about the cinematography. But there are a couple of scenes when he goes crazy. Well, the last 20 minutes, that is pretty clear that he thought about these scenes, how this will actually play out before putting everything else. Everything else feels effortless, and the last 20 minutes feel like pretty methodical.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you're completely right. The style of the scene driving to the hospital was so radically different than everything else. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And it's not that it's bad. It's good. It's good, but at the same time, I had the feeling that it's like, this is not a perfect product. It feels like 2 products.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I had mostly the same reading of the film that you did, but I wanted to ask you, unless you have anything else about your own opinion, about the New York Times movie review, which brought up something that I didn't get and would piss me off, but I didn't pick up on this meeting.
So the only thing that I was going to be adding besides that, I don't know if I would recommend this movie. I don't. I mean, not because it's bad or anything, but it's like, it's a thriller, but if I think about thrillers, usually I go with movies that are thrillers from the beginning to the end. This is a very weird combination out of the regular stuff that I understand as a thriller. And if I think that aesthetically is pleasing, I think that the last 20 minutes are, as we said, like pretty well thought. But besides that, everything else is like, it's okay. There is nothing like too much.
So the last one is, would you watch it again?
Maybe, but it's one of these maybes of because I forgot it, but I don't have like a bad memory of it. I don't, but I don't have like anything that I would say is that if I ever have to do like a list of the best 100 movies, I'm going to think about this movie. I don't think that I will ever remember it.
So I agree with you. I don't think that in a year from now, if we were to look back at the spreadsheet, first off, I'm not going to remember the name, and then if you're like, hey, do you remember that French movie we watched? I'm not going to remember it now.
Yeah.
Did I like it very much? Would I watch it again? Yeah, absolutely. So my husband watched the first 45 minutes with me, and then he left, and I finished it. And at the end, I was like, you need to actually finish this movie.
Yeah.
Really good. And I was like, I would absolutely watch the last half of this again with him, even the day after I saw it the first time. So.
Yeah, the last half, I agree with you, is like significantly better because it's actually way more focused about like what it's trying to say. But the first half, albeit it's about trying to build the relationship between the two characters, it's okay. I mean, it's nothing like too crazy. Is that there are movies that they are serious. For example, right now, it's like I don't know why it came to my mind. M from Friesland. I think that the first part of the movie is way more solid than this. It actually builds up some kind of ambience to it. In this one, it's like there is no ambience. There is nothing. Is that you don't want to. In other movies, you could actually, in other thrillers, you could give me something about like just trying to suspect or just build up some kind of atmosphere. In this case, there is no intent about doing that, and maybe it's what he was going for about like trying to make like two separate walls.
Yeah, it was interesting that the Butcher, and I feel bad I can't think of his name. He is never shown on screen.
Popol.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because I thought it was like a made-up name. Popol.
He's never shown on screen as being anything but a pretty good guy. At the very end, he does pull the knife on her, but then he stabs himself, not her. But we never see him being ugly, really. We see him just expressing a lot of messed up emotions at the end. And it has this dichotomy of what you said is there's no ambiance. It's like this, everything feels so out of place in a good way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because it's a bit more like if you actually thought about like real life about a serial killer. Usually serial killers are sociopaths and psychopaths that they're going to be just being able to adopt a different role for just surviving. So it's like maybe you don't know that they are completely crazy, and the movie doesn't need you to show everything. Even when he stabs himself, they don't show that.
Yeah.
Because she closed her. Yeah, she closed her eyes. Did you like that scene when she's closing her eyes and everything goes dark?
I did. I from the very beginning, I enjoyed that I was going on this emotional ride with her. Specifically, and when that happened, I understood. It made me think like that's probably what I would do. I would just close my eyes.
I'm going to die. I'm going to get murdered.
Yep.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. It's like I think that this is a good movie, but the problem is like if I cannot remember it, I'm not sure if this is like a stellar movie. So please go with the New York Times, just in case if I need to change my score.
So the New York Times review was pretty good. They liked the movie, but the interviewer said this works for me on, I think they said a passion or a romance level because she so believed the little love story. Yeah. But on an intellectual level, she rejected the idea that Helen was somehow just as bad as him for withholding her love and causing him to be a monster, basically. And
what?
I know. So I read this and I was just thinking, like, is that how people thought back then? And I was happy to hear that you and I had the same understanding because that didn't cross my mind, because you don't blame, and I think it's the case because she's a woman.
Yeah.
There's no way she's responsible for her serial killer boyfriend.
But it doesn't even make sense from the perspective that they mention multiple times that he went to war, that he actually was in the army for many years, like 10 years or 14 years, is that he went to war, he saw like people dying, and it's like, they never look at the camera and say like, this is what fucked him up. But But
experience bad shit.
yeah, it's like he was actually when they were talking about like, well, they found like that body in that way. It's like, yeah, I saw all of that. It's like he is basically like I don't want to say vaccinated, but he's like immune to that kind of horror.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, he's like that's completely unrelated to her. Completely,
So-
it's like that's his personal experience.
So what the article was saying is that they both were completely damaged by this thing. For her, it's this embiggered lover, and we don't. It's not ambiguous. We don't know anything about that person. And for him, it was the war. And because she couldn't love him, he had to kill because she was withholding her love. It's just. I want you to read the article now because I was like, this is some misogynistic bullshit.
No, that's what definition of misogyny is. Is that she's. The only thing is that she actually does cock blocks him, but that actually makes her look like a more human character. About like, look, it's not that I don't love you, it's not that, but I cannot feel that attraction because I was so damaged that I don't want to expose myself again.
I was so annoyed at this critic. I was like, this isn't. Why are you taking up like 4 columns in the New York Times to talk about this?
No, it's interesting because it's 1970, so at that time, Boys in the Band was already out. It's like a movie that was like completely gay-based was already out. And now we have this other movie that is not like empowering to the girl because the girl doesn't do anything. And I feel a bit torn about when she kisses him. That is even more like, this deletes a bit more like this. I mean, it doesn't delete, but it puts like in a very twisted perspective the female character. It puts it a bit more like L kind of thing, like okay, that's pretty sick what you're doing there, no?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It is sick, and for those of you listening who will never watch this film because you can't even find it, as they're taking the butcher in on a stretcher into the hospital, he says, "Wait, would you kiss me?" And it's their first kiss. They've never had any physical intimacy. And she walks slowly to him, which, come on, doctors, he has a stab wound. He needs to be getting to the OR.
Yes, no.
She walks slowly to him, and she ends up giving him this kiss. And it's creepy and kind of disgusting, and it's a weird... But what I'm trying to say is I understand how fucked up she must be loving this monster.
That's true, but it's like the thing, and that's the part I was saying earlier. That is like the problem. I have another like problem with the script. That is, they try to display her as this strong, independent female character. That is, look, I don't love. I already love in the past. I was so damaged that I don't want to go through it. But at the same time, when she kisses him, it's a bit more of a call for I was desperate for loving him.
I can see that, but I also think she was just looking at him and she loved him. He was probably dying. He asked for this one last thing before she's pretty sure he's dying.
You think there was a mercy kiss?
I think she wanted to kiss him, but I think she also did it because he was dying and she could give him that one last thing. I don't know. Maybe that's a idealistic, ridiculous way to look at things.
I'm just weirded, and when she actually kissed him, and it was just like, okay, from an aesthetic perspective, it's cool. From a progression of the story, it's cool. Now, when I actually look at the script itself and the characters that you depicted, I have no idea anymore who this character is. And there was actually, I thought about like the sick interpretation of everything, that she wanted him to go into the school because she actually goes like 4 different times for just locking a different door. And it's like, what
I
about?
think that part's a stretch.
I know that it's a stretch, but I was thinking like, what about if the whole time she wanted him to go in? That there was still some kind of hope from her side about like, well, maybe he's not a killer, so I'm going to be let in one room out. And it's like, oh, I forgot that room.
He confessed, but she never saw any actual evidence. So I can understand her wanting to have some sort of hope. But I think that her kissing him really had to fuck her up. Because she did it because she wanted to and because I think she was showing kindness, but it messed her up. Which made the last scene of the movie, to me, so fucking powerful. Like, I am a monster as well because I care about this monster.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, it's like I don't think that at any point she drove him to do those things.
In
I
terms
think
of the
those.
fucking New York Times article, no, I'm super annoyed. I don't think that's a valid reading in the slightest. In terms of how you and I both saw it, yeah, that's kind of a shared understanding we have of
Yeah,
what happened.
yeah. I mean, that's the reason what I was telling you is that this reminded me a bit of Hell. I'm not going to be spoiling Hell, but I felt like okay, this is another like just surreal, toxic, sick relationship between you guys.
Yep,
At the end.
agreed.
But yeah, so my score, or is there anything else that we should discuss about?
Nope,
Would you
I
recommend
have
this?
my score.
Would you
I
recommend
would,
this
yeah,
movie?
absolutely.
To whom?
I think it's a nice middle ground between my super fucked up taste and my family's taste. Like this is super fucked up without them having to go through absolute horror.
Okay.
I would absolutely recommend this to my family. I think they would like it. For instance, if I had seen this movie, I would recommend it to you. I wouldn't sell it like crazy, but I'd be like, hey, I bet you kind of like this small French film from the 70s.
That's fair. Yeah. So my score is actually a 6.5.
Mine was a 7.5.
Okay. Yeah. As I told you, it's like I'm not going to remember this movie at all.
And that's fair. And we have agreed to discount things a little bit if we won't remember it. But I also feel like this is smack dab in the middle of mediocre and exceptional. It's a very
Sure. Yeah.
very satisfying is what I would say.
Sure. I mean, for me, it's like it's a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's like I need to remember it for us just going into the setting.
I'm gonna put a Google Calendar reminder in 1 year to be like, hey, do you remember this movie? And we'll see. Because I don't think I'll remember it either.
Yeah, so there are actually those are scenes that I mentioned earlier that I found like aesthetically amazing. They made me want to watch more by this director, but also reminded me of Bad Blood.
Oh yeah.
What was the name in French?
I can't think of it.
Is Leo Carras, no?
Yes.
Leo Carras, and so there were a couple of scenes in Maboa-san that they were incredible, like incredibly beautiful. And I think that it was like 5 months since we watched the movie.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah, and it's like I cannot remember most of it.
Oh yeah, I remember nothing. Besides, there was a scene where he was flying while hanging onto a plane.
That's the scene that
That's
I
all I
remember. When they're like just falling down. Yeah, that is incredible. Everything else is that I just forgot it. So I had the feeling that it's going to be another situation like this. And something that talking with my friends, I know that you like French cinema, that you actually just give it like a vote of confidence because it's French, you know, and French have taste. It's like
a Christmas Tale.
A Christmas Tale. That's fair. Christmas Tale is a good movie. But when talking with my friends from Spain, there was a comment. I don't know what movie we were talking about, and they said, "Oh yeah, French cinema is always so good. It's like French people know how to do cinema." And at that point, it was like I couldn't generalize that much. It's like I may be like an asshole, but it's like true. Yeah, they're going to be like good French directors, but they're like good directors everywhere.
I agree with that. There are good directors in every country, but looking at the output of most countries, to me, France definitely stands out as more interesting to me personally. I'm not making
Yeah. I won't say no. What I will say is actually that France is a very chauvinist country, so they're going to be like investing a lot of money on just producing their own content. So they're going to be like just supporting directors internally for just producing cultural content. But that doesn't usually happen as much in other countries. It's a bit more like for just being a good director here, or whatever the country is, you have to be amazing. Otherwise, you're going to be ignored. Or you're going to have like just close to zero budget.
So you're saying that France has an unfair advantage because they have so much money for the arts? No. I'm
Yes. No, that's true. That's what I'm saying. It's like now Now, what I would say is that it actually speaks like pretty good about the country itself because they appreciate the arts and they know that it has an importance, like a transcendental importance. That Italy or Spain or Portugal or Germany, I don't know Germany, but in those countries they don't really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting.
So,
are there any other countries? Well, if you were asked, hey, what are some countries that stand out to you as in the last 20, well, let's say 50 years, has produced relatively interesting films for you?
For me, but as you know that I like the golden age of Hollywood.
I was not tricking you into saying America, Jesus.
Because it sounded like it.
No. Jose, for some reason, likes the Silver Age of Hollywood. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, ignore America, and you can't say Spain, although I would say Spain is up there among the countries producing interesting films.
I would say that the funny thing is like something that I want to watch more is of Italian neo-realistic cinema. Is that when we watched Cinema Paradiso, I actually thought for a second on The Bicycle Thief that we didn't record a podcast back then, but that movie was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was a bit more like I'm curious to see like more of that movement. That is like it's not easy to digest, but it's raw. It's the only word that I can think about it. Like, it's just raw. So I think that the thing is like with Spain, you have to think that 50 years ago they still have a dictatorship. So you could have Buñuel just doing Viridiana, that I still think that is a fucking amazing movie, and then just saying like, yeah, I cannot keep recording here. I just need to move to Italy, I just need to move to France, but I cannot stay here.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so Spain is not really like a good example. It's like maybe they had the talent, but they didn't have like the landscape for doing anything.
So let me, we're going off on tangents here. We should probably wrap up. But last thing, would you say Italy in the last 20 years has produced a lot of interesting content? I absolutely agree. That's up until what I would say maybe 1980. Italy was like, yeah, strong filmmaker presence now, and I don't see much of anything interesting coming out of Italy.
I think that you're absolutely right. If I had to think about the last 20 years, I would have to spend a while to just think if there was anything that it was from Italy, that it was not a comedy, and I thought that it's like, wow, that was good. Because certainly I'm not going to say that Life is Beautiful was one of them, you know, and that was like close to 30. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was. Wow. Time flies.
No, that's true. You are absolutely right. I think that France has kept doing interesting stuff. I don't think that it's groundbreaking, but it's still interesting stuff.
All right, fair enough.
But with that, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, okay, I would do like some homework. I would try to just look for a bit more of European cinema from
Maybe
the last 20 years.
Maybe that's a challenge we'll do at some point. Find an interesting film from Italy in the last 20 years.
And I think that is a completely valid one. Now I'm curious about it. I'm going to be adding another column to our spreadsheet about like just challenge, you know.
All right.
Find an Italian cinema. So we already said the score. The only thing left is like the movie for next week, and that's my pick.
It's your pick.
Is my pick. And we were talking about like it would be interesting to just see is that this was a bit very realistic thriller. No?
Yes.
I don't think that there was
not
anything.
Over the top.
Yeah. So I was told like not too long ago about this film from 1981 French film called Diva from France that is also supposed to be a thriller. And it's also supposed to be a transition film from the realistic cinema of the 70s from France into a bit more of an imaginative age of French cinema. So I would like to just watch that and see exactly how it compares.
And it will be interesting to compare against The Butcher, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point. Okay, man. Anything else to say about this?
That's it for this week.
All right. Well, thank you so much, whoever is out there listening to this,
Wash your hands.
bye.